I'm attempting the impossible today, rebuilding a small school in a super conference. It's gonna be rough. I brought over every program that was a 4-star prestige or higher, and my goal is to win it all with Appalachian State, but to do that, with 9 conference games a year, it feels like the toughest rebuild I've done on College Football 26. Now, I was out at Appalachian State this past weekend with friend and NFL running back Darrington Evans, where the game came down to this very final play with a big hit leading into an interception. It was just a sick ending and boom. Now, while I was out there, a lot of you all asked me, when's the Appalachian State rebuild coming? And here it is, just inside a super conference. There were a couple other teams like Texas A&M, USC, Washington, and Texas that couldn't even fit on that screen because we got a full conference of 20 teams here. And I'll tell you right now, a lot of players already wanted to transfer away from the Mountaineers program. Most of our school grades aren't looking very hot, but we do have our conference prestige to lean on, which should always be an A+. Stadium atmosphere being a C- feels kind of low because they've sold out like their last 13 home games, and that environment for a G5, it was great. That's what we're working with right now. As I scroll through this roster, it is just a 70 overall. Shout out DJ Burks, met him this weekend. I also got to finally meet AJ Swan. He's going to be our starting quarterback for the next 2 seasons here. And you might recognize his name. He has been a part of every single video I've ever done where I've asked college players to build my team. He's been in 2 or 3 of them now. We're finally getting to actually play with him on the game. Then if we look over at our receiving core, I actually got to face Jaden Barnes on College Football. Me and Darrington Evans used Kentucky against Bama, and we doubled the score at halftime. So I got to brag about that, even though I got help from Darrington, because typically I don't beat college football players on the game. He's the most exciting receiver prospect on this team to me with his gold shifty, but he cares about playing style. He's most likely going to transfer alongside like 30 other players, but I'm going to recruit receivers extremely heavy off rip. You can see we got a couple 4 stars there. We have some 4 stars at the bottom of our board that other schools just aren't going after. And then there's a bunch of 3 stars in the middle. These first batch of prospects are 3 stars that other schools have also offered scholarships to. I don't think we're going to win any of those battles, but then we have this whole other group of prospects that were the only school that's offered a scholarship to them, and I think we can win these battles without putting hours into them. I did decide that Danny Blankenship deserved a little bit of love since he is a gym. He only is 83 speed, but I feel like we could make him pretty solid. And there is only one way that this season could start, with App State's biggest rival, Georgia Southern. We get to host this one. I was actually walking around on the ground right where the players are coming out. There are some bleachers there in real life, and then that hill at the back of that end zone is where student sections all sit. And when they win, they get to storm the field. They might have done it after beating 0-5 Oregon State, but here's the thing. Oregon State is a Power 5 team. If I'm just going to be throwing interceptions, though, I'm really not helping out App State. Come on. DJ Burks almost had the safety there. They're about to run for a 99-yard touchdown. Oh, come on. Someone's got to catch this kid. We can't be losing to Georgia Southern because we're going to lose to every other team on this schedule. It is time for AJ Swan to step up, and he's going to find Jaden Barnes. At least I thought he was. It is 3rd and goal, and our slant is going to get us to the 2. Now, this feels like a great spot to go for it on 4th down, which is what we're going to be able to do. But here's the thing. With 4 minutes left, we find ourselves down by 1. Now, that felt like a sack that we probably could have avoided, but AJ Swan clutched up for us anyway, so we're all good. We needed that 3rd and 11. I'm hoping that we can just get that comeback route to work on the outside, though I made a blind read. It's an interception. It's basically just a punt on 4th down. We still have our timeouts left to try and get this football back. But if they decide to throw the ball, we're going to be in a lot of trouble. I actually can't believe that they just did that. They're going to throw it out wide. All we have to do is make our tackle. And here we go. This is a major 3rd and 14. As long as we don't give it up, we're going to be okay. Again, this could be the only game we win this season. It's very important that we don't lose, especially since it's App State's biggest rival. Both them and Georgia Southern came up and joined the Sun Belt the same year. That's what makes it a big deal because they were both FCS, then they both became FBS. And if there's one thing App State has done since moving up, it's been have success. They've won like 8 bowl games in the 12 years they've been here. When I was there at their athletic center and their locker room, just looking at all their trophies, it was nuts. The final play and kick almost got blocked, but we are going to take down Georgia Southern, and hopefully we can pick up more wins this year, but that might be the only one that we get. I wasn't kidding about them having a rich history, though. When Darrington Evans was with them, they went 4 straight years winning a conference championship and a bowl game. That's just a crazy run. This was straight after they moved up to the FBS level as well. I don't know if a team will ever do that again. And they also have a few FCS national championships, but that is not enough history for these guys to want to stick around. You can see that like 30, 40 players are going to try and transfer at the end of the season. And that's why recruiting has to be our main focus. I can see that some of these battles for 4 stars are going to be competitive. If we're going to lose some of these battles, I'm just taking them off our board. And ultimately, most of this first season is just going to be a bunch of blowouts. I don't even want to know what this final score is going to be. Turns out it was 58-6. If you look at the rest of our schedule, I guess we do have both Marshall and Coastal Carolina on here, so those are winnable matchups, but all of our conference games are going to be miserable. And if we stand any chance at out-recruiting Clemson here for one of these 4-star receivers, we're just going to have a successful visit week, but Coastal Carolina is the only team that we might beat. I don't think we're even going to make it to that game, though, before these prospects just decide to sign with Clemson. We're hard selling them, and it's the correct hard sell, but it's just not enough to beat out the Tigers and their pipelines, which is why they're getting removed. And by the time that we've gotten to another big home game in Boone, we're currently sitting at 1-5 because even Marshall beat us. What are we supposed to do, though, when like half of our conference is full of ranked teams, and then the teams that aren't ranked are still massive powerhouses? Alabama's currently sitting at 1-4. And I'm just hoping that we can take down Coastal Carolina, because if we don't, we're not going to beat out Clemson here. We're not going to beat out USC for a center, and we're not going to beat out NC State for a 3-star power rusher. This era of the transfer portal and a bunch of NIL is making things extremely difficult at Appalachian State. But we need to be able to overcome it, and there is Yusef, our mascot. Players running out. It doesn't look like it's a sold-out game, though. I know it's between two teams that have not been able to win more than one game each, but that is just not realistic. AJ, what are we doing? AJ Swan can't be turning it over there. We literally just set up Coastal Carolina to win this game, and they keep it on the read option. We need to let them score. They should easily be able to settle for a field goal from here and just hit it to win. But now we have our opportunity to drive down the field. There is a reason I'm not hopping in against the best programs this season. You see how we're playing against Coastal. There's a lot that needs to change at Appalachian State before we're going to stand much of a chance in those games. Now, if you want to blame AJ Swan for where we're currently sitting, he has thrown 3 interceptions. I only threw 1 of those. That means it's not all my fault for the bad read. We're going to try and hit this deep post here. It's overthrown, though. That's game. Well, Coastal Carolina is going to take down App State. And I'm actually disappointed because while I was out there at the game, one of y'all gave me this tiny unicorn. You said, don't throw it away. Keep it for good luck. The good luck did not pay off there. Since that was the last winnable game on our schedule, let's just get to the end of the year where we're going to be 1-11. If some commits along the way pop up like Enrique Yoder, I'm going to be extremely excited because the 4-star should not have chose our school. He came to this school on a visit where we lost to a very bad team, which is why guys like Doug Holliday and also this athlete power rusher committed to other schools. You're going to see that Cantwell is going to end up choosing Ole Miss, but we're not going to take him off of our board. We also got this 4-star speedster. But ultimately, once the transfer portal rolls around, we're going to need to start going after some more prospects because I feel like our board's just not looking that good, though there are a lot of 3-stars. What's so cool about finding players that care about conference prestige is we don't have to worry about them eventually transferring. And like expected, after the loss to Coastal, things just continue to go downhill for us. I'm not proud to say this, but if you search by how many points per game we gave up, it was over 40. It was the worst defense in the country, and our offense happened to be the worst offense in the country as well. Kent State did better. If you keep up with college football, you know how bad Kent State is. That is saying a lot. So ultimately, what we might need to do is just move on from AJ Swan. I'm sorry, man, but 12 touchdowns, 20 picks, it's not cutting it. I didn't even realize JJ Cole was a former 4-star, and he is 6'7" with star dev sitting on this roster, cares about conference prestige, and we haven't been putting him out there on the field. Now, that throw on the run is abysmal. 49 is something I won't be able to say. But his other accuracies, if he takes a step forward in the offseason, should help get our receivers the football a little bit more. On the rushing side of things, we really just had one running back that we used. He got basically every single carry, but I'm not super impressed with his stats or anything. Now, I don't want to fire either of our coordinators. I would like to keep them around, especially my guy DJ Smith. Whenever App State held on that final stand against Oregon State, we had a huge dap up as everyone just stormed the field, and he's an elite recruiter, so if he continues to get better as a coach, he could be very useful in the future. You know what though? This could be a good time to just separate ourselves from Hall Simmons. If we had the worst defense in the country and the worst offense, we have to at least get rid of somebody. Looking at these conference standings, Penn State and Oregon join the SEC, and they end up being the 2 teams on top of it. Alabama went 6-6. Everyone tried to get to about 500 though, besides us. And so far, I've been seeing a lot of these 3-star signings pop up. I'm just not sure if getting 3 stars will be enough to compete inside our conference. Whenever Kentucky got to leave the SEC, they went 12-1. you'll see how the rest of college football just shapes up much differently with this current conference build. The playoff bracket already looks a little bit wild. I did throw Mississippi State in the Sun Belt, though. I thought it'd be funny if they couldn't even have success there. Turns out they're having success. And do you know who is here to help us have success? Freddie Kitchens. Now, I feel like I recognize that name because he used to coach for the Browns or something. He is a talent developer at North Carolina. He is our new offensive coordinator, and if you're curious where I put some of these other schools, I put Kentucky and South Carolina in the ACC. I think I put a couple of teams from the SEC in the Big 12, and then the rest of them, I think, went to the Big 10. It really was just Mississippi State I decided could join the Sun Belt, but maybe that is what takes this conference to the next level. The Bulldogs ended up losing to BYU in the first round, though, and my Kentucky Wildcats made a run at the national championship before losing to Texas Tech. I unfortunately don't think I'm going to be seeing that happen anytime in real life soon. If you look at all the players that want to transfer as well, we're saying goodbye to quite a few guys. I couldn't convince any of them to return. Then we have all these graduates, which means we're losing like 50 or 60 players. And even that wasn't enough to get rid of every player on this team that might decide they don't want to play for Appalachian State in the future, because still another like 20 want to transfer. I can't say much is looking good for the Mountaineers as we head into the transfer portal period, though we do have these 2 4-stars. Neither of them had higher than impact development, though. We got star dev on a couple 3-stars. I'll take that at least. What we do with these transfers, though, is going to make all the difference. We're going to shoot for getting some 4-stars, but there's not many that are interested. We ended up not making that much progress on either one of these 4-stars, but I did find some 3-stars, especially receivers that I think would really help take our offense to the next level. We just got to see if we win these battles. Now, what I somehow didn't notice is JJ Cole is trying to enter the transfer portal and leave, but we're going to try and recruit the quarterback back onto our roster. I think we're going to be successful there, but we're not going to be successful on either one of these 4-stars. We didn't have what it took to take the lead on UCLA, and our hard sell for Jalen Glover just isn't good enough because these pitches are not going to work. I think I was able to find a couple pieces for our defense that are going to be useful replacements, though. JJ Cole is back with Appalachian State. Let's just hope he has a good future here. I got him some more receivers to throw the ball to, though dev trait matters a lot, and Shelton Sampson Jr. looks like he's going to be a beast for us. I'm hoping to find some more guys with star development, though. We really only had it on a few other players in this recruiting class, a center, a linebacker, and Alfonso Brown, a gadget receiver who could be really good. But time will tell there. If you look at the top recruiting classes in the country, I'm pretty sure all of these teams are inside our conference. So the first top 9 classes in the country are all inside our conference. This is bad. For us to sign the 43rd best class and it be by far the worst in our conference, it lets me know that we got to step it up in recruiting. But also with our player development, now we did bring in Kamario Taylor as another option at quarterback, but the reason I don't want to use him at that position is his accuracy skill caps are bad. So we're actually going to experiment by moving him over to running back. I'm really not too optimistic for the future of App State, except the fact that JJ Cole has been able to get pretty solid up to an 87 overall, and we're going to make sure that some of his abilities get better too. For most players, I'm just going to let the computer auto upgrade, or else it's going to take me forever to get through the season. But there's a couple players that I've taken into my own hands, like Shelton Sampson Jr., who now is really good route running and also has 96 speed. But I still think we're set up to go 1-11 again, because once you get past our first few top players, the drop off is drastic, and there's a lot of starters that are going to be below an 80 overall. I feel like if we're ever going to be good enough to compete in our conference at Appalachian State, I have to unlock talent developer, but to do that, we have to have 2 first-round draft picks, which is still far out. We seriously need it to develop players quicker. For now, we're just going to start going down this recruiter tree. I wanted to make it so defensive back transfers were more interested. I'm going to do the same thing at wide receiver. And after that, we're just going to save up our skill points until we can get 2 first-round picks. Now, there's a lot of players that still want to transfer from here, and that's cool. They can enter the portal, but we're going to redshirt every single freshman that cares about conference prestige because we know that they're not going to leave. And my main hope for this season is we take down Coastal Carolina, Charlotte, and Georgia Southern. The other games in our schedule, I'm still expecting us to lose. But we at least got a little bit better from a 70 overall to a 72, and this next recruiting class is going to be crucial. I was really hoping that we'd have a better chance at signing more than just a couple 4-star recruits, but as you can see, we're going to get cut off at 5. I think we'll get 3 or 4. And then I've put some hours into some offensive linemen here, but outside of maybe these 20 guys that are on our board, I want to use the transfer portal. That's the fastest way for us to actually improve this roster, not going after high school recruits. We're just going to skip over this game against Coastal. That was one that we didn't win last year. This season, 33-7. If you look at JJ Cole's stats, he played a pretty good game, but I have no idea how he'll do after we play on the road at Charlotte because our schedule from there will just continue to get more difficult. Since it's a rivalry, I think this is a game that we should hop into. Boone is just a couple hours away from Charlotte. And what I learned is if you ever want to fly in to see a game at Appalachian State, you probably have to go through this city. I really wasn't expecting Charlotte to put up the fight that they have in this game, but you can see what's happening when they're running man-to-man coverage. It's not like anyone's getting open. And with only 2.5 minutes left in this matchup, we really need to pick up something on 3rd and 18. JJ Cole refused to take the hitch route though, which has set us up for a play that we're just throwing it up. We have the size advantage there, but we can't catch it. This is extremely frustrating. They're going to run a jet touch pass where I'm going to let them get into the end zone. Just for our own comeback hopes, that does give us a slight chance. We stop them on the 2-point conversion. But to win this game, we have to score just as many points as we've scored through the first 4 quarters. Getting hit before that throw was actually extremely beneficial. We might be able to just sling this one to Shelton Sampson Jr., which we do. And we're going to try and shoot this run, which we got. Here on 2nd and 13, they've decided to throw the football, and they have a lot of time back there, which means they're going to be able to complete it. It's over. You can clearly see why we've struggled. They just got a flag, but I don't think we're going to be able to get the ball back from this point. It's just really frustrating, though. Why are they throwing the football? Pick it! Pick it! That was it right there. That was our chance to get back into this one. We've sent in a blitz. But can someone explain to me why Charlotte is being so dumb whenever it comes to running out the clock? They just threw that out of bounds as well, instead of forcing us to burn our final timeout, all for us to waste it on an interception on the next play. All for it to fall apart. The effort that we put in doesn't matter. Can we make the tackle? I really don't want to speak about this game ever again. I have not had good performances on the field in this rebuild. But here's the thing. That is not what I'm known for. What I am known for is turning around the actual roster, and then it becomes so good that there's no way we can't win a national championship. That's what we're doing in recruiting. It might take us 5, 7, 10 seasons for things to be in place to where we can recruit really good classes. But in order to get there, we got to get over a lot of seasons. And what I've discovered this season is there's no guarantees for us to get any of those 4 stars that seem like they weren't going to be recruited. All the bigger schools have come in and they've made it a problem for us to close out these battles. It's pretty frustrating that by the time we make it to our game against Oregon, which is visit week, we've already lost out on both of these receivers to Ohio State. But at the same time, I get it. If I were a receiver, I'd want to play for wide receiver university as well. We did beat Notre Dame, which was a surprise, so we're sitting at 2-8 instead of 1-9. USC only scored 12, by the way. I can shout out our defense for this performance, but our offense only had 7 first downs, 122 total yards of offense. I mean, this is just an Iowa head coach wet dream right here. Maybe JJ Cole will want to transfer there. It's time that we host the Ducks in Boone, though. See if we can pull off the upset. I have a feeling this is probably not going to go our way, but it would be a step in rebuilding App State. We might have been too hard on AJ Swan. No matter who our quarterback is, we're not scoring points. We're not hooking up with each other well either. I mean, that could have been a 30, 40-yard game. But it wasn't. It was another turnover, and Oregon's going to take a win 24-3. What that means is we're probably going to lose out on every single one of these 4 stars. I'm just going to take them off of our board already. I'm annoyed by it. We're not going to get a single 4-star in this class. And in my opinion, that is something that is extremely crucial if we ever want to be able to realistically compete with other teams in our conference. We beat Notre Dame, who finished this season 5-6. I guess they could still make it to a bowl, but we're done with our conference games. We're going to go on the road to Georgia Southern. And as bad of a year as we've had, I still think we have the edge in this game. Now, this is a real score. It is seriously 6-0. And Georgia Southern and our offense have both been so bad that they're punting it on 4th and 5 with 3 minutes left because they're that confident they're going to be able to stop us. I think my experiment at moving a quarterback over to running back is over. Kamario Taylor has not been good there. Our offensive line's actually holding up decently, but that's a first for this team. On 3rd down, we're just going to get it out to Hamlet. I don't think I have ever been able to win a game by only scoring 6 points in a rebuild, but this could be a first. It's just a shame that App State's offense has been this atrocious. That's going to do it, though. All we have to do is take a knee. At least I thought that was all that we had to do. There was an injury timeout, and we could have thrown an interception. Now, if we miss this field goal, we open up the door for the Eagles to come back into this game. Oh, no. No. I actually can't with this team. They're running the football, by the way, with a minute left. That's really been the reason that Georgia Southern hasn't been able to score points in this game. I thought I was going to intercept that ball right there. No! How's he still on his feet? Anyway, their play calling has been that terrible as they spike the ball. Here we are on 2nd and 10, hoping that we can force them into a bad read. This is genuinely concerning that we're in this position at the moment. The slant's not there. They're going to get tackled in bounds. We're so close to just ending this one. It's 4 verticals. We knock the ball loose. And as long as we don't get messed up with another injury timeout, it's over. We got a new offensive coordinator. We got a new quarterback. Things did not get better. And these 3-star high schoolers are going to need multiple seasons before they could even cause an improvement. The only progress we made in season 2 was we didn't have the worst offense in the country. We had the 2nd worst offense in the country. And defensively, we didn't give up the most points. That's actually a big relief. I wish we could just see where our defense ranks specifically, but they don't sort it that easy for us, so we have to assume that we're about at 60 or 70. We're mid-table. And JJ Cole did not turn it over as much as AJ Swan did, only 6 interceptions, but 14 passing touchdowns just isn't going to cut it. Kamario Taylor averaging 3.7 yards per carry on the ground. That's a downgrade from what we had last season. This is a downgrade to receiving stats. And so far, Texas Tech has won the Heisman trophies both seasons. They even went back to the national championship, but that is where they lost to Georgia. And if you just take a look at how many 9-4 teams our conference produced that didn't get their chance at winning a title because they couldn't make the playoff, it's pretty crazy. Drop those rosters in any other conference and they're probably only losing a game or 2. These are the players that are about to threaten to transfer away. None of them upset me that much. I'm not even going to try and convince some of them to return because they just transfer the season after. For the guys that we're losing though, AJ Swan has graduated, so we're not going to have a good backup. But that's about all that we're losing, and we're going to have a chance to sign both Kerry Brown and Colton Hood, which could be very good defensive backs on our team. After spending a few weeks going after all the prospects on our board, you're going to see that for the top guys, especially at the defensive back positions, we're in a lot of battles, but fortunately, they're going to be coming on visits soon. And if Dan Mahan doesn't pan out to be good, then we have no future at the quarterback position. He's a transfer freshman. I got a couple receivers for him if we can win out on those guys, and some freshman linemen. I'm really just trying to think towards the future, and this is going to be our first transfer signing. I was going to say outside of getting a BJ last week, we didn't get anybody else, but it turns out he is listed in with all these high school prospects that do not have good dev traits. We don't even know what his is going to be. And we're about to see how powerful visits can be, because if we're going to close out on players like Ryan Niblett jumping up from 4th to 1st place in the final week, then we're going to have to get lucky. This is always my least favorite part of the entire season, is clicking through every single one of these commits. The fastest way to get around it is just close app, then load back in. And on the other side of doing that, we're about to see how successful we were. Now, Kerry Brown chose Florida, which really stinks because I thought we had him locked up. We still got Colton Hood, so we got 1 4-star, but Purdue took this left guard away. And those are a couple battles I was really hoping to win. Mitchell Dallas at tight end though, freshman, star development, that is a big piece to our offense now. We'll see if there's any other star dev guys. It looks like both of these receivers are going to come in with star development too, all 3 of them. Dan Mahan only is impact, but at least he has 3 solid targets that he's going to be able to throw the football to. The issue we're going to run into though is the same thing that we ran into last season. When we sort by the best classes in the country, basically every single one is a part of our conference, and we're down here at number 48. When it comes to recruiting class rankings, our class ranking has actually gotten worse season over season, so next year I'm hoping that can change. We're going to get JJ Cole all the way up to a 91. Then I decided we might be able to make him a 1st-round pick if we just get his awareness as high as we possibly can. He still has another 10 skill points to spend. We're going to be able to make him a 96 overall, but he has just 65 throw on the run. For a guy like Colton Hood, we're going to increase his man coverage since he is a bump and run corner, and that's going to actually get him to go from an 86 to a 93. But then we did the same thing on Ryan Niblett, getting him up to that same high overall, and after we've progressed a few players, I think we're just going to let the computer progress the rest, which is going to get us some really good jumps, like a 12-plus jump on Micah Gilbert. Freshman Alfonso Brown that we recruited also saw a plus 11 with his star development. His route running could get maxed out. It's just his quickness that's always going to be rough. And with a roster size that's over the limit, I can actually start to get picky and cut players that we don't need. Basically, anybody that would want to transfer in the future anyway, we're just going to get rid of now so we don't lose them at the end of the year. And what that leaves us with is one player that still doesn't like our playing style that I think's a senior, and a few players that we just need to make sure get on the field. One thing I noticed though is after auto-progressing some of our players, there were still other guys on our roster that hadn't been progressed yet, which threw me off, but it means we got more skill points I'm gonna have to spend. And some of these guys I had high hopes for, like Dan Mahan, who had 43 to spend, but guess what? All we can do is improve his throw power, his elusiveness, and his quickness. He is maxed out, which means he is not our quarterback of the future. With our team actually fully progressed now, we're up to an 81 overall, and you're gonna see a lot of our best players are seniors, but we got them through the portal. I still think it's important for us to balance a good high school class with a good transfer portal class though, because guys like this, a 3-star gym, are our future. But after scouting like 20 players, I only found one gym. After reflecting back on our board, we're not even putting hours into that gym, let alone a single 3-star, because I found 9 4-star prospects that didn't have a scholarship offer. So we're gonna see if we can get any of them. They care about conference prestige as their deal breaker, which is a big deal for us. I was kind of hoping with all the powerhouses in just our conference that this top conferences list would look a little bit different, but they're saying the ACC is on the same level as the SEC. That means all those ACC schools can get that same good pitch that we're able to get, plus we're competing with all the best anyway. But I'm hoping we can get some leads on those guys before other schools pursue them. I think we hop into this game against Michigan as well. There's history here, history that Wolverine fans probably don't want to relive, but we're going to have them come to Boone, which is even better. And we have multiple star corners that I think could lock down their offense. That's exactly what they've done so far. We also have all of our new receivers on this team. The freshman tight end catching that one for a touchdown there. And we have to see what Mitchell Dallas just did. I'm not even sure if he got a foot down, but it said he scored a touchdown. Seriously? I don't know how EA does it, but you can never see what you actually want to see on a play, because something always gets in the way. You can see that toe touch there. But I feel like they literally coded the game to make replays useless. While we were watching it, the goalpost got in the way for us. You can barely see his foot got down when they challenged it. But ultimately, it was a touchdown, and we're about to have a 2-possession lead. Now, unfortunately, that would not be enough for us to win the game. I thought we'd find a way to score more points in the fourth quarter. But we didn't. Instead, we gave up a field goal to them, and we've allowed them to get it within 6. But who cares? Hood is just going to snag that ball away. And what did I say about our star cornerbacks on this team? In the final 10 seconds, we gave up a touchdown, but they weren't going to beat us from there. And that means we have stumbled into starting this season 2-0, but we're about to play Notre Dame. That one did not go our way. They beat us 45-23. I have to look at some of these matchups, though, where I might want to schedule prospects for a visit, and I guess it's going to have to be against either Tennessee or Clemson. I was hoping that we were going to play Charlotte at home. Georgia Southern simply comes too late in the season, but so far, I'm not seeing a single school enter any of these battles except on some of these defensive players. It might be best if I just decide to pull out on these guys now. Another really cool thing that's happened is even though we've been awful, our championship contender is currently sitting at 37 because we play such a difficult schedule. So even if we happen to lose on the road at #1 Texas, I don't think it affects that grade. By the time that we make it to week 7 against Clemson, we're currently sitting at 3-3. They're 3-2. And I should have planned ahead to schedule some visits for this game since I want to hop into it, but nobody's coming on a visit this week. I basically just think this is a good opportunity to potentially pick up a win that we wouldn't get in Sim. But that is not what happened here. That is not what happened here at all. Can we just get that score off of the screen? Perfect. No one else needs to see it. Luckily for us, that didn't really change anything with the prospects that we're still targeting. I only removed that corner that Georgia was going to snag. I still think we could win the rest of these battles since we've already been able to pick up one 4-star receiver. It'll all just depend what happens after we face off against 2-4 Ole Miss and then have our bye. With the amount of 4-star commits I've seen on this screen, it's the first time where I'm feeling like we're actually making progress in recruiting. And the best part about having all 8 of these 4-stars committed is their deal breaker is conference prestige, so they're not going to transfer away from our program. We can keep these guys for 4 or 5 years. With a 24-22 win over Miami, we are also currently in a position where if we beat USC and then take down 8-2 Georgia Southern, our rivals, we would be bowl eligible. It's not something I was expecting as we were just simming through the season, but look at where we're currently sitting in the conference standings. Texas A&M, Florida, and Ole Miss are all having worse years than us. This is a huge game because ultimately, I think we will beat Georgia Southern, and that is why I'm hoping that we're going to have a sold-out crowd for this game. It's not, though. How much of a difference has that made? Not too much. Our new receivers are really helping the air raid offense. We're going to go over there and celebrate with Yusef, our mascot. And the longer this game's gone on, the more apparent it's been that we are genuinely better than the Trojans. Yes, we just gave up a 4th and 10. But Austin Mack has thrown 3 interceptions. And I still don't think they're going to be able to finish this drive off with some points either. 4th down. they have it. We couldn't even select onside kick recovery, so I'm hoping that we recover this. We scoop it up with Ayers, and that'll do it. This is a major win for Appalachian State, but it's not going to mean much if we can't beat Georgia Southern next week. And funny enough, the recruiting battles that we're going to lose this season are going to be on 3 stars to bigger schools. No more delaying the inevitable, though. Let's see what happens against the Eagles. We're still going to have about 7 players that want to transfer, but we're 6-6. I can't believe it. We're bowl eligible. We beat them 33-14, and everybody else in our conference is still beating up on each other. That's what's going to be the hardest part about this, is making that jump up from being 6-6, 7-5, 8-4 to a playoff team whenever you have to face a schedule as tough as this. We also ended up getting the 2 3-stars I thought we'd lose out on because they were on a visit and we beat a rival, though UAB took this right tackle from us. But I doubt I'll really care about that long term or it'll affect us at all. Our bowl game is going to be against Indiana. That feels very manageable, and for our 4 stars, did we get our first elite dev player? I think at least one should be, but we didn't have a gym on here. We got star dev on a receiver, but that's it. That's unfortunate to see. I'm not going to fire either of our coordinators yet. We got to keep around DJ Smith. Currently, his elite recruiter is starting to pay off. As you've probably been able to notice, we've been able to put more hours into linebackers. That could be the reason we had more success getting 4 stars this season than previous years. It's about time that we take on Indiana, though. What I've realized is we had a 96 overall quarterback, and we had 2 corners above a 93. We're not going to have that again for at least a couple of seasons, so it might be hard for us to get back to this position, which is why I'm really hoping that we can pull this game off. On our first drive, we saw that we beat the press, but Gilbert drops it. And that is why I just don't enjoy Micah Gilbert as one of our receivers. This ball's in the air. Go back and catch it. I'm shaking my head for a reason. How is that how our first drive ends? That was the farthest we'd get down the field until the 4th quarter as well, which is why we need this 4th and inches. I've been trying to pull off the comeback, but they just stopped us there. We shoot through the gap, and they're going to be able to almost pick up a first down off of it. I think we know what's coming here. I just don't want to overcommit. We hit them. And here we go. I feel like we can send a blitz, get in that pressure, but we just got juked out. We have the cornerbacks to be this aggressive. It's actually a shame that we've given up as many points in this game as we have. There's our blitz. We're either going to get a sack or we're going to give up a touchdown. There's basically no in between. That's why we only run mid blitz in situations like this where we have nothing left to lose. On their 3rd and long, look at how much time they had back there in the pocket. We should be able to pick this off. At least it hits the ground. The clock is going to stop, giving us a minute to still beat the Hoosiers. We got Ryan Niblett back there at returner. The senior is going to be able to juke to the left side. Hang on. Can Ryan Niblett take this to the crib? He might just do it, but he's going to have to get back out there on defense to help us get a stop. Now, this could be seen as foolish, but I am just going to go for the 2-point conversion. I like the play we had drawn up, and I like the odds of our defense continuing to play well in the final seconds. Looks like on 3rd down, they're just going to go with the jet touch pass, but we'll tackle them in bounds. And that brings up a huge 4th and 2. I doubt we're going to get them off of the field. We did not guard the flag, but I just have to trust in these final 16 seconds. We can continue to hold on. And how is he turning upfield here? They're out of bounds. We're back to being desperate. I think they're in field goal range. It won't matter, though, if they get a big run like this. That's going to end it. I genuinely have no words. If we just took a better angle to make that tackle, we wouldn't be in this spot. There's really not much more that I can do here. We're going to stand back there in the pocket forever before we take a sack. My brain turned off. I didn't even throw it up for whatever reason, so we lose by 7. As for the national champion, it's going to be Georgia going back-to-back. Mississippi State has made the playoffs every year, so throwing them in the Sun Belt and expecting them to struggle is not what happened. I have to check back in on my Wildcats. They finished number 18, 10-3. I'm hoping we can eventually get to that point. We have 4 persuasions to try and convince some of these players to come back. Jaden Walker, one of our better linebackers, is not returning, though. At least Cam Pruitt is. And that's why I try to avoid the playing style deal breaker. It can change so quick for us. Graduation-wise, we are going to send multiple players on to be first-round picks. I told you all that our defensive back room was really good, even if they didn't get that many interceptions. Sack-wise, Landry, a senior, he's going to be gone. He had 12 this season for us. And J.J. Cole at quarterback for us threw a few more touchdowns this year. He had over 1,000 more passing yards. He completed a little bit more of his passes. But I can't believe he's going to be a first-round pick. Our running back room was awful. Kamario Taylor got injured, the former quarterback, and then receiving-wise, Micah Gilbert was a 1,000-yard receiver. He's just a sophomore, and some of these other top targets are sophomores and freshmen too. The most important thing I want to talk about, though, is what happened with our NFL draft results. Getting 2 first-round picks unlocks what I mentioned at the beginning of the video, and that is going down this talent developer pathway. We're able to purchase this. It's only 15 skill points or coach points, whatever whatever they are, we still have 145 to spend. And if I were to look at what Freddie Kitchens, our offensive coordinator, already has, you would see that he doesn't have tier 3 for anything, but we could double down on making sure our freshmen and sophomore players at these positions progress even faster. That's what I've done for now, but then I decided we might as well make it to where all of our starting positions on offense also get that boost. We go to tier 3. I haven't done it for defense yet. We're going to have to level up more for us to get that. But now we can place a massive emphasis on the players that come into our program, and if we could sign somebody like CJ Carr, that'd be big for the QB position. I don't know how many of these transfers we're going to actually sign, but this is setting up to be the best class that we've had so far. I think no matter what, it already will be since we signed 8 4-stars. But getting talent like CJ Carr would just add to it. We've been able to guess his hard sell, and we can put him on a visit, so I think we might actually land him. It is wild to me that we live in a world where Appalachian State has been able to sign the number 3 player in the transfer portal. And outside of signing him, I thought we were going to have a little bit more success with some of these other 3-stars, but Georgia beat us out for John Mitchell, and then for this corner that we had on a visit with the correct hard sell, Kentucky still was able to beat us out for him, so that's a couple of losses that we took. Ultimately though, I finally found a player with elite development, Roger Capps. He's a halfback and he is just a freshman. That's some big news for us, alongside the fact that we signed the 20th best class in the country. There's actually a lot of teams inside our conference that are not signing as good of classes as they were a couple years ago. I wonder if it's because they don't need as many players though. I mean, we're going to start having so many young players that we're not going to need as many guys as we got either. I'm making some of our receivers tight ends just because gritty possession and contested specialists typically translate pretty well to that position. I'm also excited to announce that Micah Gilbert has gotten himself a dev tray upgrade. That takes him up to star development. He's been a really good receiver for us, but here's the thing. Once we max out his route running, he's probably going to leave early for the NFL draft, and he's already met all of his skill caps. Then we have someone like Kamario Taylor that's developing into a pretty good running back. What we're going to do is we're going to get him gold shifty, see if that makes him any better. But ultimately, Roger Capps is coming for his spot, the contact seeker that's going to have 98 speed as a sophomore, and he is only going to get better from this point. As player progression wraps up, if anything really stands out to me, it's the fact that our offense is so much better than our defense, and typically in these rebuilds, the defense tends to outshine the offense, at least in overalls. That has not been the case here though, but part of that could have to do with the fact that we found all those star dev receivers in the portal a couple years ago. They're getting extremely fast, and they're only sophomores. They're going to be around for a while. And it made me realize if all these freshman receivers just care about conference prestige, we should be able to redshirt every single one of them. I mean, what we have done is just load up for the future. We have 29 sophomores, 35 freshmen, just 12 juniors, 7 seniors. And this season, the caliber of player I'm going to try and get is going to be taking it to a whole other level. I think because we get to reap the benefits of having A+ conference prestige, this rebuild's not been as tough as I was thinking, especially now that I can go after 4-stars that care about stuff like championship contender. That is something that we couldn't go after last season, so we're going to continue to hopefully rack up the 4-stars. I don't think our championship contender will ever drop far. We play a tough enough schedule to where it seemed to be in a good spot after last year. Let's see how we open up the season against Miami though. I actually think that even though we're 10 overalls worse than them, this is a team that we could take down because of the guys that we have on our offense. And I've given CJ Carr about everything that he should need to succeed. Now, Kamario Taylor couldn't get in on that play, which makes it 3rd and goal, but CJ Carr is just going to step up and be held short. But we're not going to let that ruin this drive. We're going with the speed option. We pitch it, and Kamario Taylor can celebrate his way in. It's about time that he made a play like that. We didn't have time for the 2-point conversion. And in response to our score, Miami's marched their way down the field, but we tackle them on 4th and 2. Another fun thing we should be able to pull off is a deep touchdown if they're going to press some of our receivers, because we do have speed out there, and that's going to allow us to hopefully run away with it. I believe that this was a much closer game than this score is going to reflect. So how we perform in sim against programs like Tennessee the next week could be completely different. In that matchup, Cam Rayner had 13 receptions for 199 yards and 2 touchdowns. Turns out the Volunteers were able to beat us by 3, but we beat Texas the next week on the road, which is a big deal. We obviously took down Coastal Carolina, putting us at 3-1. And I made sure to get 4 visits scheduled for when Charlotte came to town, because I'm pretty sure this is like a free win for us and we'll be able to close out these battles. I should also note that even though we didn't play a game the week before because we were on a bye, we were able to jump up into the top 25 for the first time of this rebuild. Now, if we were to lose to the 49ers, that would derail everything. So even though we're going to be heavily favored, I'm going to hop in. I don't know if I've even mentioned it in this video, but in every rebuild, I hop into 3 regular season games a year. It forces me to build a good roster while also being able to have a little bit of control and fun with the guys that we recruit. So playing this one could be seen as a waste, but you just never know what's going to happen when a rival comes to town. So far, we have easily been handling the 49ers, and it would continue to go that way. We won 42-14, but I think it was worth it. It has gotten the ball rolling with this recruiting class as we've signed multiple 4-stars, and I'm hoping that we can keep up all of this momentum as we head on the road to the big house. Somehow, though, in the fourth quarter, we gave up 22 straight to lose this game 43-42. Our offense has been incredible. It's our defense, like I predicted, that's been having its issues. CJ Carr could have thrown one less interception. That would have definitely helped. But whether or not that result went our way or not, we kind of had to know that as the season goes on, as we continue to play tough for opponents, we're most likely going to drop more games. The tough part, though, is seeing everything fall apart as we lose multiple matchups. That drops our championship contender low enough to where players are at risk of transferring. And that's probably why we should not be recruiting off of that deal breaker. As you can see, both Oklahoma and Ohio State were simply the better team. My new worry has become we're not going to be able to close out these battles, even though we have all these 4-stars scheduled for a visit. It's either week 10 or week 12. We're actually going to hop into the one against Texas A&M because that's going to be a big determining factor on whether or not we can get this 6'6" athlete. And on paper, they're actually the same overall as we are. We're so close to making it back to a bowl game. We just need to be able to win and defeat the Yell leaders, who I'm glad it just cut away from because they were about to do something outrageous. I'm not going to replicate it because I'm not getting clipped up like that, but if you've played the game enough, you know what I'm talking about. This is how we're going to end the first half, by the way. I was trying to settle for 3, but it literally wasn't letting me call a timeout, so we just went for it. It worked out. We ended up winning this game pretty easily. And in my opinion, that was well worth it, but only if we were able to sign that 6'6" athlete over Oregon, which we didn't. He still decided to commit to the Ducks. That's unfortunate. We're about to play LSU, then we have Bama, then I think we get to end the year facing rivals Georgia Southern. Here's the problem, though. After the Tigers took us down, our championship contender deal breaker is being met for multiple players, which could cause a couple of these commits to flip their decision. I can't hop into any more games or else I would love to play against the Crimson Tide. We're just gonna have to deal with it. And I feel like we ended up getting extremely lucky with the way it worked out. We took down the Crimson Tide, we took down the Eagles, so we finished 7-5. This is the most wins we've had in a season. Plus, we didn't lose any commitments. We gotta take this guy off of our board. We have a 5-star we're still pursuing. We're in first place for him at the moment. And we might be sitting all the way down here at like 13 or 14 in our conference standings, but we are doing better than programs like Ohio State, Miami, Florida, Alabama, Washington, Clemson, Texas A&M. I mean, that alone is an accomplishment, even if they're playing a super tough schedule, because we're facing the same one. I really don't think it makes any sense to switch up on either of our coordinators either. Even if we could potentially hire better ones, they've taken us this far. I'd like to continue to extend them. And theoretically, whoever we have to play in our bowl game should be pretty easy since most of the best programs are in our conference. It's going to be Wisconsin. Before we play that one, we have to check out the dev traits of the 10 4-stars we've already signed. Starting with a star, that makes me feel pretty good. Can we get an elite on one of them though? Those are the players that progress super quick. Even if we didn't find what we wanted though, let's make sure that we don't lose to the Badgers like we lost to the Hoosiers last year. I know that our roster on paper has to be better than what they have, which means we have no excuses anymore. But as this game comes to a close, we better hope that the transfer portal treats us right again. We've now had back-to-back seasons with a 95 overall quarterback, and I'm pretty sure next year we're not going to have that same luxury. As for the national champion, that one is going to go to Auburn, who is currently residing in the Big Ten. And we have a couple normal development players that want to transfer away. We can try and convince them to come back, but even if they don't return, it's not the end of the world. I don't even know if we want this 68 overall freshman quarterback. Look at the guys that are actually leaving. We got some NFL draft picks. This will help us level up our coach. And a new strategy I've been working in before every player gets drafted is I go in and I spend any extra skill points they have with the hope of boosting their overall. They get at least a few throughout the season, and for our strong safety, if we upgrade his awareness and play rec, that can take him up 1. You might not think that's a big deal, but he was projected to go in the 3rd round, and now he ended up going in the 2nd, which actually affects our pro potential grade. As you can see, if he was a 3rd round pick, it'd only have a medium impact on our grade, but since he went in the 2nd round, it has a high impact, making it an A instead of like an A-. I actually really enjoy recruiting players that care about pro potential because once you have that grade up to a certain point, it's never going to drop again. It should continue to raise because you can keep on getting players that are going to get drafted. And the fact that we have this many 4-star transfers that we could potentially sign this year is just nuts to me. You're going to see like 7 or 8 cornerbacks. I don't know why I put this many on our board, but we'll see how many we get. I mean, if they end up being better than the players that we currently have at this position, I'm fine with taking them in and encouraging these kids to transfer. I also noticed with some extra coach points to spend, we're going to continue to go down talent developer. And the hardest part about recruiting 3-star transfers versus 4-star transfers is you have to actually guess the hard sell and be correct if you want to win on these guys, versus with a 3-star transfer, you can basically just win off a cent in the house. Before we made it to the end of the transfer portal period, we have signed our first 5-star, the high schooler that went under the radar for most of the year. We definitely didn't get everybody. We lost to schools like Auburn, Tennessee, Georgia, Kentucky, and Michigan, but we did end up signing a 4-star quarterback who's just a freshman, so I'm super pumped up about that. And DeMar Ruggins might be a senior this year, but he does have elite development. That's something that we're always looking for. On Obi, he is normal development. That's not a great sign for a QB, but we got elite dev on the 5-star linebacker. And I got elite development on a punter. I have never seen this before, but elite dev on a punter, star on who's going to be another kicker or punter for us. That is just nuts to me. I'm actually curious. We could be inside the top 15, and we are. We're at number 12 with our class. If you compare that to the rest of our conference, it's only mid-table, but I have to trust that our talent development is going to be better than most of these teams, which should allow us to get to their caliber. And something I just noticed was the freshman quarterback we recruited last season has star development. Maybe we should be focusing on keeping Ofisa Tinker around. He is only going to have 2 accuracy skill caps, which means we can progress him with some skill points that were just sitting around before training results. You probably saw the 96 speed on quarterback Austin Carlisle, though. We got him in the transfer portal last season. His accuracy is already as high as it's ever going to get. But again, 96 speed. Can I complain? I'm going to be running around with his Platinum Magician, with his Gold Shifty, which can become Platinum Shifty. And one thing I've noticed about Alfonso Brown is even though we recruited him to be a receiver for us, he is going to be a great running back next year. We just don't need to move him over yet. Whenever we can mix elite development and then talent developer on both our coordinator and our head coach, we're able to get 54 skill points to spend on Roger Capps. And what I decided to do with the running back for now was get 99 break tackle, 99 change of direction, 99 agility, paired with his 98 speed, 99 acceleration. We also got him gold downhill, so he breaks tackles at max speed. But it's not really his year to shine at running back for us because Kamario Taylor is now a senior. The 6'4" kid is up to 241 pounds. He has 97 speed, 94 juke move, and we also have gold shifty and gold sidestep. It also just hit me that 90 overall Micah Gilbert didn't graduate early. He stuck around for his senior season. This receiving core looks like it's just unstoppable. And I can't let you forget about tight end Mitchell Dallas, who we got out of the portal a couple of years ago either. He has maxed out hands, his route running solid. He should be higher than an 89. Since we were able to get a couple cornerbacks above a 90 overall too, I'm feeling pretty confident with this team. I think we'll be able to get to 9 or 10 wins, though I know we're going to drop at least a few on our schedule. And I almost think that we've gotten to a point where the transfer portal is where we should be doing most of our recruiting because we only have to replace 9 players on this team for next season. We have a full roster of 85 guys. So I think what we're going to do is just go after some 5-star prospects, see how many of them we can get, but if we don't sign any, it's not going to be the end of the world. I mean, it doesn't feel like we've had the type of success to where that's a move that would make sense for most rebuilds, but you have to think about the conference that we're in. Just going 6-7 was enough for a championship contender to get up to a B the season before, and our school grades just continue to rise because we're playing a really difficult schedule. Our first couple games this season aren't ones that we should be too worried about. You're going to see guys like wide receiver Micah Gilbert go for 6 receiving touchdowns, but that's because we are going up against an FCS school and Charlotte who actually kept it within a possession. Either way, our performance in those 2 games was enough for us to get ranked inside the top 25, but we're about to host the number 3 team in the country. And although I wasn't able to schedule any of these guys to come on a visit for this game, we're still going to hop into it because it's a huge matchup. This one really sets the tone for the rest of our season, and it's the first time that we've had over a 90 overall roster. But I have to say, even if most positions on our offense took another step forward, our quarterback play is going to take a step backwards for the first time in years. Austin Carlisle does not have the arm talent that we're used to, though he is so fast on the ground. And I guess we do have some really good receivers on this team that we should be able to throw it up to. We're down to the 10-yard line, and I'm just going to keep it with him here. We can't evade that defender. But if it's man-to-man coverage, Micah Gilbert should be able to get open, and it's just put on the money. To see us making plays like that is a massive deal to me, though they are throwing it up when they have the football back. We can knock it out on 3rd and 6. And we are one step closer to closing this game out in Boone. Our stadium pulse is not inside the top 25. Our stadium atmosphere has not changed that much throughout this video so far. Can we get out of here, though? We might have gotten him with the spin move. Come on. Coleman, you got one guy to make miss, maybe multiple. But either way, we're in a position where we're about to hand it off to a former quarterback. and see if he can get a lot of yards on the ground. I really didn't think Kamario Taylor would be as solid as he has been. That's not a fumble that we can have at this time. That legitimately might just cost us this entire game. They've driven down the field. They're at the 1. And we have to start using our timeouts. The last time we blitzed, we forced a stop. But we were in a very vulnerable position. We got lucky they dropped the football. That's going to force a fumble back, though. We can scoop this up. So just how the Longhorns got the football back, we do the same thing. And Pruitt has nobody around him. We were able to retain Cam Pruitt. He wanted to transfer. Now he's going to be glad that he's staying at App State. And what a way for us to get to take down Texas in Boone. If that happened in real life, can you imagine how crazy that place would be? Those are the types of things that I like to imagine once we've taken a small program to this level where we're trying to get to that next step, getting into the college football playoff. We're about to play on the road at Miami. And it was a little bit of a close call, but we took down the Hurricanes 24-17. If we're just looking at the rest of our schedule right now, there's only one ranked team on it, Oklahoma, but we know all of these programs are going to be hard for us to beat. And it turns out when you put every single big team in the same conference, it affects the rankings. Like Ohio State 4 years ago, 3-1, they would have been a top 5 team. They're currently unranked, but they're just as good as they used to be coming to our stadium. If we were able to get Zach Traywin to commit during that game as well, I have to think that we won because he was scheduled for a visit. And that's exactly what happened. We have a couple players, our quarterback's not happy about their playing time, but outside of that, nobody wants to leave the mountain. We were able to beat the Buckeyes 44-24. We had almost 150 more total yards than them in this game. Austin Carlisle, he only had 2 passing touchdowns on the ground. We had 3 rushing touchdowns. But our winning streak might come to an end as we're about to head on the road to Neyland. They're typically pretty hard to beat in Sim, but we just edged them out by 2 points. Now we have number 11 Oklahoma coming to town. You know that we have to play that one. And I just can't believe that we are currently sitting in a 5-way tie for first place in the hardest conference. I figured our ranking would be a little bit higher, but we have teams like North Carolina, Auburn, Texas Tech, Duke, Arizona State, all in easier conferences than the one we're playing in, ranked above us. And it's not like any of those teams or ourselves have somebody that's in the Heisman Trophy race. On the recruiting front, all 8 players that we're still putting hours into this season are coming on a visit either against the Sooners this week or the Wolverines next week. As you can see, we lost a receiver to Notre Dame, but it's not the end of the world because there's a couple others that are still considering our school. And either way, I can't be upset because we are currently sitting at 6-0. I imagine for us to get off to as hot of a start as we've had with this team so far, it would be like 10 years in the future after a roster was built of just 4 stars and 5 stars, but that's not been the case. All of these fans here in Boone have rallied behind this team, but I think if this game has proven anything, it's that our team still has a long way to go before we're going to be that good. As we're currently trailing by 21 points, we're clearly not the best team in the country. It's making me feel like some of the teams we've beaten this season we're just having some rough years. But there is still a little bit of hope that we can come back and turn things around. What I want to do is just go for the 2-point conversion where I think our slant is going to be caught. And if we can get the Sooners off of the field, that'd be a huge deal, but we're stuck on a defensive lineman giving it up to midfield. This is basically our last chance in this game at getting a stop, and they just threw it up on 3rd and 6. We have the football back with all 3 of our timeouts, but we're starting this drive on the 4-yard line, which is why I've opted in to just scrambling off the rip here. We might even look for a deep post route if they're willing to give it up, but I'm pretty sure there's a safety back there. This was just sending up a prayer. And on the final play before the 2-minute warning, once again, it made more sense to scramble. That's really what we should have been doing throughout most of this game. We're going to evade the pocket here and probably go for a deep post. We've got him. But the windup took so long that we get hit, causing a pick. They have it. And that's just been another downside to using Austin Carlisle. You can see that it just takes him so long to get a deep ball going. I can't believe it, but a loss like that has dropped us down to number 16 in the polls. We were facing off against a good team, but there's no punishment for us losing that visit week. We just don't get these big gains that we were hoping for. I think it's pretty safe to say as well that we're not going to make it to the conference championship since so many other teams were undefeated in conference play. But we ended up taking down the Wolverines. We also won at Kyle Field, which puts us at 8-1 as we finish out the season against LSU, Bama, and Georgia Southern. Now, I think whether or not I hop into this game against the Crimson Tide, we're going to lose, so we're actually going to play our game against the Tigers and just hope that we can get into the playoffs at 10-2. But I might have set some of our expectations for the season a little bit too high. You can see that for these 5-star recruits that it seemed like we were going to have a good chance at landing. Since we didn't get those week 7 visits going well, we're not going to get many of them. Some of the week 8 visits didn't give us a big bonus either. And that was with a win over Michigan. I guess it's just become such a common thing for App State to do that nobody cares anymore. We truly have made the Mountaineers a lot more respected, but I think a lot of that just came with being placed in this conference. Our conference prestige has truly helped us a lot out in this rebuild. They are getting in here. The Tigers also got the 2-point conversion, which has me a little bit worried because this game is not over. It felt like it was. We dominated the first 3 quarters, but they've just worked their way back into it, and we're about to take a sack. We might just throw a high ball up to Dallas, depending on who's watching him here. Though it's man-to-man coverage, our throw on the run was boxed. So we got our elite freshman punter back here, trying to kick it deep against the Tigers, but they're going to have this one on the right side of midfield. There is no way that we end up losing this game, or maybe there is. Maybe there is. I just can't believe the type of collapse that we're going through right now. They're going to have another throw on the run. They keep on attacking that zone they're in. We have to go back to the basics. They've been stopping our deeper passes in this game. Micah Gilbert's going to get us 7. And I've never run a double pass before. It's boxed. It's so boxed. Austin Carlisle shouldn't have even thrown that ball. At least our crosser's going to be open, and he can hook up with Yoder, who's at the 46. But this seriously has just been a disaster for us. And we have him. We had him. The missed throws are really starting to hurt us, but this is what happens when you have a quarterback that's more of a runner. He's getting tackled by his own offensive line, and we're just going to have to roll out. We're going to roll out, and we're going to hope that they make some blocks. I can't believe how often his teammates are getting in his way. We got 4 verticals here on 4th and 9. Austin had the speed to get around one player, but he's going to have to swerve around the other defender. We're in field goal range. To have Heisman Shifty and Heisman Magician activate at this point in the game is absolutely massive for us. In fact, getting him a quarterback blast before we use our final timeout is exactly what I want to do. And it just took one cut to take it into the end zone and end this game. That is how good he is on the ground, not through the air. If he was just a little bit more accurate, this team would basically be unstoppable on offense, but he's not. And when you consider the fact he only has 90 throw power as well, it makes it very noticeable when someone is like 67 throw under pressure, 72 deep accuracy. We only have to deal with him for the rest of this season, though. After that, we have freshman quarterback Ofisa Tinker. And what we've done for him is sign a couple of 5-star recruits. As you can see, though, Alabama lost 1 game and fell down to number 17 in the country. It doesn't even make sense to me. We have to sim it now. I've hopped into 3. But I'm starting to feel relieved seeing a player like Eric Rugamer getting 2 interceptions versus them. I thought that meant that we were able to beat them, but we didn't. We lost 36-35. Thankfully, Georgia Southern makes for an easy win for us to end this season 10-2, which might not be enough for us to make our conference championship game, but it is enough for us to get into the playoff. I can also confirm that recruits will still open up if their deal breaker ends up changing because Nebraska's championship contender fell, and so we can enter the battle again on this left tackle that we originally lost out on. It's the first time I've seen it. Currently, we are in a deadlock with Kentucky for this 5-star linebacker. The halfback seems like we're going to get him over Iowa State. We got a 5-star corner, but Nebraska took those 2 receivers from us. We got one of the 2 linemen versus Georgia. It's looking like we're going to sign 5 or 6 5-stars in this class. And those are the players that we could develop into Heisman Trophy winners. Oregon at a receiver go for almost 1,600 receiving yards, 20 touchdowns before the playoffs even hit. We got Duke in the first round. This is great. They have been consistently making it here like they do in every other dynasty, but look at some of these playoff teams. We could have to play against Texas Tech, who's been really good, but I don't think they're as good as some of the teams in our conference. USF is a 4 seed. I just feel like we managed to get on the easier side of the bracket. Austin Carlisle, his accuracy wasn't as bad percentage-wise as some of our previous quarterbacks, actually, but he did throw 11 interceptions. Kamario Taylor rushed for 900 yards on the ground. But this is what I really want to point out. Roger Capps, who's going to be our starting running back next season, 16 touchdowns, only 74 carries. That's getting a touchdown on like every 5 of his carries. Micah Gilbert had 14 receiving touchdowns. And I feel like injuries haven't hit us too hard in this rebuild. That's going to remain true. We went from having the worst defense in the country, which is now Vanderbilt, to not being the best defense in the country, but at least being inside the top 25 on both the offensive and defensive side of things. And it's got us ready for what I'm hoping could be a championship run with Appalachian State. To do so, though, we're going to have to win 4 games. We get to host a playoff game here in Boone, which is pretty cool. And we've really just been experimenting against the Blue Devils, throwing up a bunch of jump balls. Now, it's caused Austin to throw a couple of interceptions, but it's made me realize that we could pull that off in some of our future games. We've just had full control of this one because Duke's offense has really struggled. And if we could just get into the end zone here, we would have our 3-possession lead over them. which we do. As the Blue Devils tried to come back in this game, we continued to make it worse and worse. And we're also seeing guys like Micah Gilbert put themselves in the Appalachian State record book. Just like Austin Carlisle is thrown for the most passing touchdowns in school history in a season now, he is the most receiving touchdowns. CJ Carr actually had the most passing yards last year. But depending how far we go in the playoffs, that record could be in jeopardy too. Texas Tech hasn't lost a single game this season, but we also know that they play an easier schedule than us, putting up 49 points per game. They're definitely in the old Big 12. But even if they've had all this success, the time to build up a super good roster, despite not being one of the top 20 programs in our conference, I feel like we're going to have that edge over them because we've played tough competition. Well, I'm a little ashamed to admit, but we have not played as well as I was thinking. We're currently trailing by 14. And I'm going to run a play that I know didn't work for us well yesterday. The deep post is technically there. Look at how inaccurate Austin Carlisle is. Granted, we didn't need to make that read. We could have not forced it, but he chose to, and I'm ready for this tiny little quarterback to leave our team. We actually got embarrassed here, and it shows that teams outside of our conference are starting to get pretty good to where it's not just going to be a walk in the park against them. Texas Tech wouldn't even go on to win the entire thing. They lost to Auburn in the semifinals, and then Notre Dame lost to the Tigers in the championship. It just really stinks that that's how this season's going to end, and we have 3 of our better receivers all trying to leave. We're not going to be able to convince Cam Rayner to return. He's a 93 overall. But Terrell Coleman has a chance, and he's not coming back either. If we don't get Troy Willies, we're going to have to replace those types of players in the portal. He didn't get the playing time that he wanted. We're going to get our center to return. It said it was guaranteed, but that is a big loss for us. A lot of our best talent from this team is gone. Granted, some of those guys literally came from the portal just a year ago, like both of these corners. So at least we have that going for us. We should continue to sign great players at those positions since they keep on getting drafted. This is a big draft class. Since every time a player is drafted between our offensive coordinator and ourselves, we get 6,000 bonus XP. We're going to have 63 more coach points to spend, and that's just going to allow us to get to tier 3 on every position, so our starting players gain XP faster. We have all sorts of transfers interested in coming and joining Appalachian State, just not quarterback Andre Pino. We faced off against him at LSU. He's going to end up somewhere else since we've been locked out. And I think just by stacking complimentary visits for all 4 of these players during week 2 is going to lead to us getting some really big defensive signings. A couple weeks later, as I expected, you're going to see some defensive commits, but I'm a little bit worried about the offense. And it's time for the moment of truth. The first commit we're going to lose is going to be to Kentucky. They always get that cornerback from us. We've noticed that in the portal. Lots of linemen going to bigger schools. We got a couple of receivers and a tight end, which I like to see, and a couple of guards. UCLA stole this free safety. But ultimately, since a lot of these guys are going to have star or higher development, I think we're going to be in some pretty good hands. We're looking for our first elite. We've gotten back-to-back elites on these transfers, which is really going to help our defense 3 in a row now. That's going to be such a big difference maker. For the 5 stars that we've recruited, none of them were elite. And signing 6 of them wasn't even good enough to get us the top class in the country. In fact, Georgia, Notre Dame, and Nebraska all had 5 or 6 5-stars as well, which puts us as the number 5 class. Now, before we can get into training results, I have to point out, there's like 40 skill points on some of our receivers from this past season that just developed throughout the year, I guess. I noticed this on a lot of them, so we're going to spend those on these players. It's gotten somebody like Alfonso Brown up to a 99 truck, 94 stiff arm, 99 jumping. I mean, he's going to be an incredible running back besides his speed. And moving him over there, he's actually a north-south receiver. I'm not sure what abilities come with that. We also need to move this other gadget receiver over to quarterback just because I didn't recruit a 3rd quarterback on this team. I'm hoping that doesn't affect our future too much. I am going to make Tavares Yoder a tight end. That's what my goal has been ever since I started developing him a couple of years ago. It gets him up to a 95, but the transfer that we brought in is an 89. And honestly, as I just look through this entire team before we even get to training results, I can tell that this is going to easily be a 99, might be one of the best ones I've ever had as well. Our weakest position might actually be quarterback with Ofisa Tinker, though we're still going to be able to take his accuracy up to a pretty good level. And then I spent a decent amount of time on the backup quarterback, Cortez Putasi. We moved him over from being a gadget receiver. As you can see, his throw under pressure is absolutely horrendous, but he has 86 throw power, and we're going to make that a little bit higher by increasing it. If for whatever reason Tinker were were to get injured, I think we'd still be okay. But that's because we have guys like Alfonso Brown at running back, who's a 99 overall. He's got 94 speed, and I wish downhill could have become a higher ability, but we just didn't have the skill points to spend. The fun part about that, though, is his backup, Roger Capps, is a 93 with 89 trucking, 99 break tackle, 99 change of direction, 98 speed. I mean, we just have one of the best teams I've ever built. And as I continue to go through these players one by one, I know that it's just going to continue to get better. Lynn Cantrell as a 96 speed receiver to have other stats like this, he's going to be another unstoppable player on our offense. By the time that we have reached the end of player progression, this is the best team I've ever had. I mean, just look at how many 90-plus overall guys we have on this roster. We built most of this through the transfer portal and just retaining really good talent that cared about conference prestige. It's just wild to me how many players on this roster are above like an 88 overall. We have at least a backup and a starter that's an 88 at every position. I didn't even mess with some of the progression on the lower overall players because I am so confident in this team's ability to make it to the playoffs, and then from there, it's on me if we can win it all or not. Even if we're only the preseason number 4 team in the country, I'm just so confident that there's nobody else that will come close to stacking up with the roster that we currently have. And take a look at the Heisman Trophy race. They think it's going to go to running back Alfonso Brown. I think the only thing that could really derail this season is if our starting quarterback got injured. That's the only thing I can think of. So far, we hung 66 points on Charlotte while they only scored 10. The FCS school could not reach the end zone against us or even kick a field goal. I think we're going to be able to dominate against Michigan. I'm going to sim until we go on the road to play at USC and Georgia. Our schedule looks like it's going to be pretty brutal, different than the past couple of seasons, but we know we've always been playing the top teams. I was going to say I'd be really disappointed if I could build a team this good and it still wouldn't go undefeated, but you have to think, we're playing against a lot of top programs. We kept it close versus Michigan despite having almost 200 more total yards of offense. So fluky stuff can definitely still happen. I just don't see us losing more than 1 or 2 games. We ended up beating Washington 31-21, and USC is still a top 12 team even after taking a loss, so we're still going to play them, Georgia, and then either Florida State or Oregon. This is where my own skill could come into play. I hope I don't mess this up. I mean, I literally could not have built a better roster. There's no excuses for losing. What I really want to see out of one of our 2 running backs is just a huge touchdown run, because we've worked on their speed, but Capps got caught. He got a little boost of acceleration there, and now he's going to go down at the 24. The fun part is, let's say that he gets tired. Well, now we got Brown that's going to take this carry, and he can just run through players if he needs to. But it's not just running the football that should be effortless, it's throwing it too. Never mind, our offensive line didn't hold up on the last play. It's also not going to here. They've set us up for a 2nd and 27, but look at this throw and draw. I can't believe that USC is about to stop us. I'm gonna just throw a ball up that's gonna be a pick. Why did you stop your route? It's safe to say frustrating stuff like that would happen all game, which is why once we started to run the ball a little bit more, we had more success. Alfonso Brown currently has 200 yards on the ground with only 13 carries, and he's going to easily punch it in. That is simply going to be our key to success this season. Run the football as much as we can with him, because he had a huge game. And it's been kind of wild to watch how far Clemson has fallen off as we've gotten through this rebuild. I will say though, a lot of these games are a little too close for comfort whenever we sim. I guess our roster isn't that much better than all these big programs, though I thought we'd just annihilate some of these teams. Kirby Smart walked out with the Bulldogs, so he's still coaching at Georgia. And a fun thing I discovered we could do in this game is just letting our backup quarterback go to work. If there's a direct snap for a QB run, he's been taking those. And just imagine what Capps can do running downhill into a set like this. I kind of want him to just run through everybody. Our offensive line made it super easy though for him to walk in. And Georgia simply did not stand a chance against us because they couldn't move the ball. From this point in the year, we might be able to just sim through the rest of this season. But since I can still hop into one more game before we get to the end of the year, I might as well play at Florida State, who's number 6 in the country. They're the toughest team that's still left on our schedule. Texas is ranked in the top 5, but we don't have them on the schedule. We might just both go undefeated in conference play and meet in the conference championship. But I'm always a little bit cautious that I'm getting too far ahead of myself. I guess you never know what could happen. It just kind of feels inevitable that with the type of roster we have, we're going to continue to win, though it's college football. I have to keep reminding myself of that. Anything can happen. It's just not going to happen in this game as we reach 31 points. We've been way too comfortable in all of these matchups. Teams put a little bit of pressure on us in the fourth quarter, but really not that much. We can just coast to a win. And I'm ready to see if we can just finish the rest of this regular season undefeated. We play Oregon, probably Georgia Southern, and then one other tough team. I think if we're still the #1 team in the country, we've made it to 12-0. And just take a look at this schedule. We didn't score as many points this year as I was hoping we would have, but in the later weeks, we started to put up a little bit more. Texas also could make it to the conference championship game. I think they lost to Georgia because the Bulldogs have the tiebreaker. And on our path to winning a championship, we could still drop this game. We'd probably be a top 4 seed and get a first-round bye. But I'm hoping we can just take home that trophy and remain undefeated. With 4.5 minutes left, we actually find ourselves down by 1. And this should have me pretty worried, but we're just going to have our scene. Moving the chains there is a massive deal. Now we can come out hot with some of these RPOs. Brown gets the cut, and no one's catching him. For the 2-point conversion, we look to our tight end. He is open. But Georgia's flying down the field with the hope of being able to tie things up. They're at the 4-yard line. Now, I'm not sure why they called a timeout. That's really bad for their clock management, but we sent a blitz and I couldn't get the pick. To win this game, all we have to do from this point is get in a field goal range, though that could have been intercepted. And we're hoping for man-to-man coverage, because if we step up, we're going to have to come back. See, the problem Georgia's going to run into is we simply have too many great targets. The only thing that could prevent us from being able to get a field goal is the refs trying to stop us from winning. But even then, I have a feeling we're still going to figure things out. We go underneath the Brown, he'll get 5. I just realized, though, if this run doesn't turn out to go for a lot of yards, they're probably going to call a timeout. And the fact they didn't is actually huge, because they could get right back in this game. We chewed some clock down, and this throw is going to be a flag. Hang on. Who's it against? Don't tell me it's another holding call. These refs. They declined the penalty, but that upset me. We're going for it. I don't care. We're going to go for it. We're going to get all the time in the world. And we're putting Georgia out of this one. That wasn't necessarily the smartest decision. We actually aren't even in a great spot to kick a field goal, but we're just going to run it again using our 98 speed running back. And that's the fight you want to see. I really think that Roger Capps is the better of the 2 running backs, even if he's the lower overall. And it is time to test our sophomore kicker. It's a 43-yarder. I think I've missed a pretty bad field goal in this video already, but that is easily going to go in. We definitely got enough on it. And so Appalachian State improves to 13-0. They have won an SEC championship, their first conference championship in probably like a decade. And now we get on to the playoff. I already set my expectations for this year that we're just going to win it all. So I haven't been focusing on recruiting the way that I need to. We're seeing if we got any awards. Our center ended up being the best center in the country. But that was it whenever it came to getting awards. Ofisa Tinker didn't have a good enough quarterback season to even be close to getting to the Heisman race. Alfonso Brown rushed for 1,500 yards. He didn't have enough touchdowns, though, because Roger Capps got so many on the ground still. And then Lynn Cantrell couldn't clear 1,000 receiving yards, but it's because we didn't have to throw the ball that much. I really think for this playoff run, it's going to be time for us to let Roger Capps just get loose, because he's a lot healthier than Alfonso Brown. That's just a move that I like to make whenever we get close to needing a big playoff run. And we better not find ourselves losing to the Blue Devils in the quarterfinals. It'd be an awful way to go out. I've noticed that we have lost both of our coordinators, though. So our talent development is no longer going to be what it once was, because I can't replace that. I've been looking pretty hard on both the offensive and defensive side of the ball, but this is the same type of build that we're getting. They're a master motivator most of the time, so we're just going to offer some high levels. And what that means is it is more important than ever that we win this national championship and we don't have to play another season. I feel like with how aggressively I upgraded most of our players during training results, they're all going to leave to the NFL. We might just put 20 players into the NFL. So I'm not even sure what this team will look like next season. We have bet on this year going our way. And with all the chips on the table, there's only one thing that we can do. Just like last season, Duke was not a problem for us at all. And we've gotten the Sun Devils in the next round, who also aren't a part of the best conference. They were able to beat Notre Dame by 10 points, though, who is, and Georgia is moved on to the semifinals. We might have to play Georgia for a 3rd time this season. So far, we've not had any issue with the Bulldogs, but I'm not sure. They might get us that 3rd time. We still have to get past Arizona State first. They're the team that's preventing us from reaching the Natty, but I'm not that worried. That exact attitude is how we find ourselves in this position, though. We are currently trailing by 6 points with 1.5 minutes left. I thought making Roger Capps our star running back would just mean even bigger wins. But if we can survive this game, he's going back to being our backup in the Natty. Can we complete this pass? We really need a big play to go our way. It looks like they're going to be out there in cover 3. We had them dusted too. Unfortunately, it's just not going to matter. The throwing takes too long. And this is actually it. This is game for us. It's 4th and 20 or 4th and 10 or nothing. What a throw. Thank goodness for Tinker. If he didn't pull off that play, we would have to go through a whole other season still. But instead, it's looking like we're going to reach the end zone with very little time left, though they stopped us short. I thought we'd be able to get a bigger run than that. They've sent a little bit of a blitz, so we're going to hit Caps underneath. He jukes. His jukes are so slow. And that makes it 3rd and goal. We're going to snap this one pretty quickly. We're going to take off. We're going to find him, and he's in the end zone. That Heisman downhill just was enough for him to break that tackle with ease. But after barely surviving against the Sun Devils, I will gladly go back to having Brown out there. That was way too close for comfort. Turns out Georgia lost to NC State, though. And it wasn't particularly close either. They beat them 38-6. I feel like the sim system on this game is just so random sometimes. They do have a quarterback that's thrown for 40 touchdowns, 4,600 yards. They have just as many points per game as us. But this is App State's natty to lose. We've gotten them this far. We've built one of the best teams I've ever had in a rebuild. Surely we can't let up now. Well, in the final few minutes, we are only up by 6. So our defense is going to have to hold strong here. I actually like how we're trying to stack the box. We can knock that out. We have a quarterback spy out there on this play as well. I can't get to the hitch in time. I'm going for the hit stick. They're in. We're losing this game now because of what was simply just a bad user. Wildcat's going to get us close to the marker, though. And we might just run this out of hurry-up mode because I just realized how OP this could be for our team. I wish I could say that we've run the ball well in this matchup, but that's not been the case. Luckily, we're going to have a huge lane here. And I really think abilities, especially for the juke moves, makes a major difference on how a guy runs. I just don't think the actual stats matter that much. They went with man-to-man coverage, and we probably should have thrown it to our slant. But we didn't, which leaves us with a tough decision. What do we do on 4th and 2? I'm being aggressive here. We're going to run the option. We're going to pitch it. And Brown is going to be able to dust that kid. We're in field goal range. Lots of bad play calls. Decisions that if they went the opposite way, we would have looked back on and said, I ruined this season. But fortunately, against both Arizona State and NC State, the aggressive play calling has put us in positions to win these games. Ideally, we don't even have to kick a field goal. We can just run it in right here. Only because the more I think about it, I have seen kicks get blocked. So we're going to go for a drag route. And we're in the end zone. We didn't get the 2-point conversion, though, so if they come up with a miracle here, they would win the national championship. I guess when you have a bunch of 90-plus overalls on your defensive line, though, they're not going to get enough time back there in the pocket. Appalachian State doesn't only have an FCS national championship, multiple of those. Now they have an FBS national championship. We've taken them all the way. I had a great time out there in Boone. This is my way of paying it back. And I have to say, when I went to check out our trophy room, this is probably the fewest trophies we've ever had in a trophy room by the end of a rebuild. We got that national championship, though. That's what matters. And just take a look at how many first-round picks we had on this team. We had 6 of them. We probably had like 25 players get drafted. I think this team was a new record for me there. Just a great rebuild all around, and if you made it this far, you might as well go ahead and check out another rebuild. I know that you want to.